This word balance, is the hardest thing to achieve. Balancing a deep tech startup, balancing personal health, going to the gym, and that's discipline.
Hello and welcome to One North Stories podcast, highlighting global A-star spinoffs. I'm your host Li Hui, and with me I have Anthony and Dr. Kush. So with the upcoming Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology, also known as Switch, we are featuring our A-star spinoffs who were past SLINGSHOT winners. So today we have someone astounding with us here. So coming up, the top 12 startups at SLINGSHOT 2019 at Switch, over 2,400 entries. WaveScan, who were under the Technologies in Urban Solutions, Sustainability and Energy sector, was awarded 50,000 Startup SG grants for their radar-based smart sensor system and AI-enabled predictive maintenance solution for the built environment sector towards safer, resilient and sustainable smart cities. Let's welcome Dr. Kush Agarwal, CEO and founder of WaveScan Technologies.
Hi, Kush. I'm going to drop the doctor because we've been friends for too long. Welcome back to A-Star Central. It's quite a while since you guys migrated downstairs and outgrown us. The other thing I must comment is that you look very jacked. What have you been doing since you left A-Star Central? The food was bad. We serve you too much better food. You look really jacked.
Thanks for having me, Anthony. I think as you guys know, back in 2019, when we were at A-Star Central and then 2020, COVID happened. So I had put on a lot of weight during the lockdown and eating a lot of food and stuff. So as we went down, I started to exercise. By that time, I had also found balance in terms of managing a deep tech startup as well as personal life. So that is why I have been taking care of personal health and very often turning up to gym in time of stress.
This word balance, is the hardest thing to achieve. Balancing a deep tech startup, balancing personal health, going to the gym, and that's discipline. Is that your advice to all possible deep tech startups founders? Go balance your life.
First of all, deep tech startups are a marathon. So it's not like a short journey where you are going to accomplish something immediately within a very small amount of time. So having that personal space gives you that appetite as well as that balance to show up at work and possibly go through all sorts of crap that happens in an early stage startup, right? And have that balance where you have the persistence to go on, right? So in terms of maintaining that work-life balance from an early stage of the startup is very important. Otherwise, you can feel burnout very soon.
Burnout, I hear you. Why back the clock to 2019, that fateful year before pandemic? We like to forget those years, 2020. How was it like when you won that category? I think it's IEEE that was behind it. I mean, it's been quite a number of years back. Did some investors step out, talk to you and say that, wow, this is amazing. You give me supervision to see through concrete and where the wood bins are and anything broken. What triggered at the point in time? And then, of course, fast forward the last 8 years, something else happened. What has progressed since then?
So 2019 was the year when we participated in SLINGSHOT competition, which was also our first commercial year because we had just spun off from A-Star in 2018. And participating in SLINGSHOT definitely gave us that visibility. So in terms of having that global platform and going through the scrutiny of investors, because when you take a deep tech problem in terms of technology and marry it to the business use case, right? So you have worked out some variables coming from engineering to the product stage. But when you interact with investors, you also get the other aspect of the journey, which is how do you commercialize this and what is the growth potential of this venture, right? So going through the exercise of SLINGSHOT, it gave us that kind of visibility where we were approached by a few deep tech investors, and which eventually also led us to close our seed funding round in 2021. There was a slight delay because of COVID in 2020, but SLINGSHOT definitely gave us that visibility. After closing the seed round in 2021, we were also simultaneously able to get a lot of government funds and grants in terms of Enterprise Singapore Proof of Value grant, SSG Tech grants, and SG Founder grant, which helped us to take the technology to the product stage, where we went through all sorts of regulatory clearances for CE certifications, since this is an electronics product that radiates energy. And after commercially launching the product in 2022, that is where we have built up a clientele of around 20 customers, early adopters, all the way ranging from built environment to oil and gas and energy sector.
Wow, you really must have made quite an impact as SLINGSHOT to be able to place, and also it must have been a very memorable experience for you. But another thing is, I've also heard that you are actively involved with various Singapore government initiatives in XComs, so including new standard developments, internationalization of Singaporean companies to overseas markets, and also building the deep tech startup ecosystem in the Asia and Pacific region, which is really an incredible thing to do. So it has also been seen on the website that y'all have won the OCBC 2024 Emerging Enterprise and Epic Finalist Startup competition. So really congratulations on that as well. Okay, so maybe could you share with us more about some of the major developments you have made since SLINGSHOT?
I mean, since we are a deep tech startup company, it takes a lot of work to take the technology from the bench to the product stage and then towards the commercialization stage. Also, to give some understanding of the technology itself, we cater to the market of non-destructive testing, which, like in layman words, goes to the inspection of buildings, oil and gas assets. So this is a very traditional market when it comes to technology adoption and all of that. Since we launched the product, we have been closely working with clients like the Housing Development Board, HDB, where we have extensively test-bedded the technology and validated our unique selling proposition in terms of the specific needs of the client. And with that, we have slowly and patiently built up the clientele of around 20 customers, where they understand the needs, they understand the technology gap, and as well as they understand that we can cater to their needs. So that is how we have converted them into paying customers.
I'm going to press a pause here. So you mentioned HDB, Housing Development Board Singapore, and then you mentioned about energy and oil sector as well. That sounds like a big pivot. Do you guys plan for that, or just happen, and how do you punch into the market?
So when we started off from A-Star, which was like 2018, the technology in the lab was validated particularly for aerospace MRO as well as oil and gas inspections. But very soon when we commercialized it, we realized that these are very long go-to markets. So aerospace MRO, for example, can take up to 10 years for the technology to get validated and approved for like manuals and like MRO inspections. And we already by that time knew that in the process of going the aerospace MRO path, we would run out of funds and we will die, right? So then you have to find the middle ground in terms of industries, which industries are easier to penetrate, and the clientele where you can basically go test bed the technology and they will be easier for adoption to start generating the revenue sooner. So that is why we started focusing on specific use cases in built environment and oil and gas. Also to clarify that since this is non-destructive testing, we focus on specific use cases. So that use cases can be in like built environment, buildings, oil and gas assets, since these are all concrete related defects and things like that. So we are focusing on use cases for non-destructive testing, NDT, and they vary from oil and gas to energy to public infrastructure and oil and gas.
So what I'm hearing is that cash flow is important, revenue is important, having that end goal or end market in mind, but in between, how do we sustain through? And you found the common denominator, concrete defects detection using NDT as a way, and that's how you actually move it on. So that is from the market vertical perspective. We also heard that you went global. which are the markets or countries that you are in right now?
So when it comes to going international, which I think is very important for Singapore startups, given the local market size and all of that, what we have done is, because our field is in built environment, real estate, oil and gas industry. So Singapore as the home market, we have started to copy it in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong built environment regulations are exactly or almost similar to Singapore. So that is where last year we have already incorporated our first foreign subsidiary in Hong Kong, where we have gone through various processes of getting this technology baselined and approved for building inspections. Then the rest of the world we cater based on client requirements. So we are not focused on serving specific countries, but our clients that are already working with us, which are large MNC customers in Singapore, they take us to their global assets to move around, scan their assets which are positioned for annual inspections. So that is how with some clients we have gone to Australia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, primarily catering the needs of our global customers.
So it's based on your client that brings you global. And yes, you set up in Hong Kong because of the building compliance and inspection that's quite close to Singapore. If that's the case, Australia is going to be a Commonwealth country, and that is likely to be the same as well over time to come.
Probably, but the other thing about building and inspections, so what we have seen after studying the Australian market is the oil and gas sector, where some of the major players are MNCs like Chevron or Woodside Energy. They have regulated inspection cycles, but for buildings and built environment, it's not regulated in Australia.
All right.
So it's not easier to penetrate that market when it comes to building inspections or infrastructure inspections.
So do you have to maintain a different team with the others, or you work with partners? You've got some special arrangement, so to say.
Since it's hardware related, inspection related, built environment, oil and gas related, you need hands and legs on the ground. So meaning that you cannot just ship your scanner and like virtually train somebody to use it. So in all the countries that we are discussing, we have appointed partners who have been pre-trained by our engineers to deploy together with the customers. And for the first few projects, we jointly work with the partners on revenue sharing model, where we closely do the hand holding, because in our field of business for non-destructive testing, data is the most important part. So the final data, inspection data and reports that the partner generates and hands over to the clients is basically the baseline on which the client would do maintenance. So that is why we control that entire process. Also, given that our clients are usually tier 1 MNCs, so we want to control the experience, user experience of using this technology for the first few times.
Could you describe WaveScan to be a product company, a service company, or a data company? Da-da-dang. Oops.
So usually, I mean, this is a very interesting topic, because when we talk to clients or partners or investors, they want to hear different sorts of these words, right? So today market is focused on data and AI, right? So people want to align it towards the story of AI, as well as service related businesses are very hard to scale. But I would say particularly for WaveScan, in our case, is a mixture of technology products as well as technology enabled services. So when we work with MNC clients, we position ourselves as WaveScan proprietary technology enabled services, which meaning that we are ready to service you from end to end with a turnkey solution, where we deploy the manpower, collect the data, do the analysis, give you final reports, and then sometimes in Singapore we also give PE endorsement when it comes to built environment. So the professional engineer endorses the report and the document gets submitted. But having said that, we do not use third-party equipment. We primarily use WaveScan's technologies products to do the inspection services.
Oh, that's actually really incredible to hear. Even as someone who is not that knowledgeable in this field, I still think that all this will really benefit the society. But of course, it won't be a smooth sailing process for you. So, like, were there any major obstacles faced as you were coming up with all this?
I think when it comes to engineering or entrepreneurship, these are some fields where you face obstacles almost on daily basis, and I think that for an entrepreneur also becomes fun of the game, right? So if there are no obstacle and the journey is so smooth, then it's going to be really boring. So for us, of course, when we started off from A Star, we thought of it like we are going to be a products company, a hardware company, right? So this was back in 2017, 2018 when we were conceptualizing the idea of WaveScan. And then we spun off, we started off, we realized that most of our clients wanted end-to-end solution. So they just didn't want the sensor or the radar, they also wanted the inspection software. So we started building all of that. And then as we got into test bedding stage, COVID happened, right? So this was like a major shock where a lot of MNC customers were not doing any work, and then a lot of things started to slow down. Funding started to slow down in terms, and which also impacted our timeline of the seed round. Then when we finally went through CE certifications and launched the product, we realized that nobody is going to accept the results of this technology because this is not accepted by authorities. So for buildings in Singapore, the final results have to be acceptable by BCA, which is Building and Construction Authority. So then we had to start working with professional engineers or civil engineers to get into full scale projects where we work with them, we prepare the reports, and the final reports are then submitted to BCA. Once this started to happen, so we got into a few big projects, I mean iconic projects in Singapore, where we have submitted the reports, and the reports finally started to get acceptable by authorities. And that is where the entire cycle of inspection or the processes that were needed were completed. So I would say it's all part of the fun. But yeah, it's what you do when you run a business.
What keeps you awake at night? And what keeps you jumping out of bed and said, I want to go back to work today?
Okay, that's an interesting question, because I think for an entrepreneur, or I mean anyone in life, I don't think every day is like the same energy where you get up with the energy and you want to go to work. Sometimes you don't even want to go sit with your coworkers, right? Because you are like so pissed off with them, you are so annoyed with them that you just don't want to see them, right? So for me at least, we have been developing this technology for a while, and I come from a business family. So I mean, I have seen my parents doing day in, day out work to create businesses. So even though I think entrepreneurship is still a buzzword that has come across in the last decade in many countries, including Singapore, right? But coming from a business family gives a clarity in terms of how much patience and persistence is needed to build something that lasts for generations, right? So that is one side of it. The second side of it is to somehow maintain your sanity. I mean, when you're building a company, you can easily go crazy or nuts. But as a founder, if you become somebody like that, you will chase away all your team members and clients, right? So you also have to be nice to people and somehow suppress all that insanity and chaos and then show a big smile because you are servicing MNC customers.
It takes a strong, very resilient kind of mindset. I mean, the fact that you said the family have been doing this, it gives you early training and early insight. So a bit tricky and going offline a bit. You have a twin brother, right? Is he also doing business?
Yeah, so as you know, I have a twin brother who is also running another startup company, which is slightly older than this company, and it's also a Singapore-based tech startup company scaling globally. So I think yeah, both of us have gotten into the
I still remember the first time I met you is that I thought you were your twin brother, but actually no. That's life, isn't it? It's also a common thread. I'm seeing quite a number of the startup founders that we have. Most of them have experienced entrepreneurship at a younger age, looking at the relatives, the parents, or even what we call teenage entrepreneurship, doing your own little gig in the school, carnival, and that gives people a certain flavor to it. Coming back to WaveScan and yourself, what kind of advice would you tell the next generation of deep tech founders? You would tell them that it's a long, windy road, it's tough, it's enjoyable, enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, or don't even get started, or any of this.
Personally, from my experience, I would say that entrepreneurship is a lifestyle choice. So if you love living on the edge, you should definitely try out something like entrepreneurship. Also, for deep tech founders, I would say that it's not a sprint but a marathon, right? So for most deep tech companies that like similar to ours have regulatory clearances or long go-to markets, it would probably take almost 10 years to take it to certain stage, which for anyone is a long amount of time. So having that work-life balance as well as you have to get your priorities sorted out. Like you have to discuss it with your life partner, you have to discuss it with your parents or like your family members, and you also have to weigh your do's and don'ts, right? So based on your priorities, that is how I would suggest people to decide about entrepreneurship.
I have it sprung on my face because I was telling my young friend behind the camera today, Daryl, to do an entrepreneurship. Then he's like, let me think about it. Same for Killian too, yeah. You're so smiling at me right now. Okay, don't want to digress too much from the people behind the camera.
I would say it's easier to do it at a younger age because the opportunity cost is low, right? So if you go like if you are almost like probably middle aged like me, the I would call myself middle aged, but
You can do it always like me, then, but different kind of
So-
liability to it.
so your opportunity cost becomes much higher, right? So it's easier to experiment at an early age. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I think the society today is very open and receptive to entrepreneurial experiences.
Since we're on that topic, let's make things a bit more interesting. So, if you could go back in time and give your younger self one golden wish, what would it be?
How young?
Yeah,
5,
exactly,
15
how
or
young.
25?
You said that.
Maybe use your age as a gauge.
Okay, so I'm 19, so maybe somewhere around there, maybe like late teens or like early, like a young adult.
Now the whole world know her age, but never mind.
I think in Singapore, or I mean in particularly in Asia, if you are born to Asian parents, you are like you always have a very kiasu kind of upbringing, right? Where you are pushed into like goalposts, right? And like you have to fit into those metrics. You have to clear certain thresholds, right? But I think now at this stage of life, I would say that probably enjoy life more because as when you are younger, you have that freedom, and even though life might seem that it's getting like it's a goalpost for every single challenge, right? But and of course, to reach that goalpost, you have to work hard, but also enjoy the process because otherwise, one, you will feel burnout. Second, that most people who are experimenting will eventually find their path, right? So enjoying the process is the most important thing, and of course, focus on health.
Health, mental well-being, balance seems to keep on popping up. Now, if let's be more forward-looking rather than giving yourself advice when you are 19 or 20. If you got a golden wish from a golden wand, all right, what is one thing that you wish that we could actually change the ecosystem, for the deep tech ecosystem, for more advancement and progress, impact, betterment for mankind, planet, people? And prosperity, of course.
I would say that there is a segment of deep tech startups that are focusing on fundamental problems, but these may not be the buzzwords or the trend where the investors' money is going. So a lot of Singapore startups are also that over the last 5-7 years who have gone through this journey in terms of developing the technology all the way to commercialization, revenue generation. Some of them are already towards the goal post of scaling globally. They are starting to break even and things like that. So if I have a golden wish, I would say that investors, particularly government related investors, find more support for these founders and deep tech startups, and compared to just focusing on ROI, also focus on other key metrics which are critical to Singapore.
I'm going to twist it a bit. When you say that a deep tech founder is almost towards the goalpost, it means you break the market, right? What is the difference and how is the telltale sign between be persistent or versus pure stubborn? I mean, it's time to give up. But you just push a bit more. No one knows, man, where's the end of the goalpost sometimes.
I think as a founder, you are dealing with clients day in, day out, right? So when you are on the field interacting with the stakeholders, you sort of know where your company is headed. I mean, I have said that before as well, that over time a company becomes almost like your child, right? So, and you should know how your child is growing. So in terms of the company itself, a founder should understand, of course, when to pull the plug. But having said that, in terms of the technology companies where we know that they're going to take slightly longer time, and you are already getting like paid customers or positive feedback from customers, then in the founder's shoes, you are in the best situation to analyze and see if what is the situation of the startup and whether or not you should go on or pull the plug.
Will you look for certain data? Will you seek consultation with someone else, other people, or including your shareholders and investor? Should I pull the plug? Should I go along? Or just, like you said, there's high and low. This is just a low moment. I'll get back up again. How do we do the litmus test and get a better sensing?
I mean, of course, if you have shareholders, this will become a joint decision, right? So you will have to discuss with your shareholders about what should be the right path. But of course, on the personal level, as a founder, you have to decide what's best for yourself as well as best for the company. And if, of course, you do not feel that you can take it further any longer, there are options of giving it in the hands of a more competent person who would want to take it forward and is appointed by the shareholders.
Actually, this whole sharing has been really insightful, and unfortunately, we'll have to wrap up. But just one last thing. Is there a message or shout out you'd like to share with the 3,000 listeners from over 60 countries tuning in today?
I would say be kind to founders. Founders, particularly, are taking a leap of faith, and probably most of the founders who are building companies have already given 100% of their life, and sometimes things may not just work out right. So not all the fingers should be pointing at founders. So give them a benefit of doubt and treat them as a human being.
I definitely treat you as a human being and everyone else, especially my young interns that is doing this with us. Yeah, please.
Okay, so that's it for today, and we hope the conversation with Dr. Kush, founder of WaveScan and also SLINGSHOT 2019 finalist, inspires you to take the next bold step in your deep tech journey. So thanks again, Dr. Kush, for being a part of this. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please click like and subscribe, and also follow our LinkedIn for more updates, and catch you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.